So arguably probably the biggest name in golf when it comes to wedges, and that's Vokey, isn't it? You know, always exciting when Titleist launch a new range of wedges, and this time we've got the SM9s to take a look at in this video. Just coming to market, they look fantastic, loads of tech to talk about. We're going to go through that in detail in this video and also hit some shots on TrackMan. Okay, so SM9, as I say, these look superb first instinct. So I've got a 50, 54 and a 58, which is my sort of wedge makeup in my golf bag. So I'm going to hit a couple of shots with each of these, and maybe, as I say, talk a lot through the technology. So Titleist saying there are three key areas that you need to get right with wedges. The first one is sort of shot versatility. Then we've got distance and trajectory control, and then obviously spin. And spin's obviously always a big word when it comes to wedges, isn't it? So we're going to talk a little bit about those three key areas and what Titleist have done to sort of maximise performance in each one of those areas. So first impressions when we pick up a wedge and we look at it from this sort of back section of it, it looks superb, super clean, which I really like. I love this little sort of strip of polished chrome on the back, and then we've just got the SM9 logo there. Beautiful. I've got these in obviously this satin, tall satin finish, which I personally really love. They do the jet black version, which is obviously really dark black, if you don't want that maybe in the sunnier climates, none of that sort of glare happening. And then they've got that brush steel finish as well. So three finishes available, but this is a satin, and first impressions, shaping of the wedge, and again, this is always for me is a very personal thing. I think for a lot of golfers is how the wedge shapes, how it sort of sits and looks, and absolutely superb. That's a really good look to my eye. I've got the SM8s and I absolutely love them, so I'm really interested to see how these SM9s perform. Beautiful sort of rounded toe section. Leading edge just sat fraction forward of that front of the hosel, but it just looks beautiful behind the ball. Okay, so this is a 50 degree. Just going to hit a few shots and straight away that feels amazing. Super soft. First impressions there. Feels amazing. Super soft off that club face. Okay, so shot versatility. So obviously Titleist are very renowned on offering a lot of options. You know, we've got grinds, we've got bounces, we've got different lofts. Obviously we've got three different finishes to work into those as well. So the SKUs are massive and they're really covering every type of golfer. So when we talk a lot about grind, you know, you see these Fs, you see S's, you see D grinds, M grinds, K grinds. You know, there's a lot of options and can be quite confusing, I think, for the consumer to really sort of get a head around. Obviously wedge fitting is becoming more and more of an importance now, especially with all these extra options that we sort of see. So grinds is really sort of trying to work into a player's certain angle of attack, delivery, maybe the turf conditions they play, and also trying to work out a strike location on the club face. And this is a big thing that Titleist is sort of saying. Again, obviously really dialing in at a certain or very precise centre of gravity on the club face. You've also got to get a really good strike on the golf ball. And the grind can make a big difference to that strike location, more vertically up and down the club face, more than obviously heel to toe area. So once we can get that real consistency of that strike location, that feels superb. Love the feel of that. But once you get that real consistency of that strike location, you can really start to build a feel of how that ball reacts. There'll be a consistency of that flight it comes out, a consistency of that spin on the golf ball. And obviously at the end of the day, we're trying to hit a number, aren't we, in this sort of area of the game. You know, sometimes these awkward distances, we get those 30-yard shot. Next one's like a 54-yard. Then you've got maybe sort of 95. You know, we've got to hit these yardages. So we need to be understanding how the ball's reacting off the club face. And obviously strike is one of the big things that can create that consistency. So the ideal location to hit the golf ball on the club face is somewhere between groove number 2 and groove number 5 is what Titleist is saying. And when you get this, that really creates that sort of lower launch, that ultimate sort of spin control and that sort of trajectory that we're really sort of looking for with these wedges. So really we're trying to fit in a wedge to suit your style, your delivery. Yeah, that's why there's so many options. We can get that right grind. It's a better shot. Right bounce. Obviously getting the right lofts to tie into your set of irons to get all gap-ins correct and the sort of type of shots you like to sort of see in and around the green, you know, whether that's a 58 degrees, that 60, is it a 62 option, you know, so it's really dialing these in to suit you as an individual. Okay, and then talking about centre of gravity, the massive thing that a lot of wedge brands are now sort of focusing on, probably the last few years now we've seen this right across the board. But more so maybe with Titleist. So what you can see there with that 50 degree, and what I'm sort of going to look at here now is in these lower lofts, the centre of gravity gets lower in the club face. Okay, for more of those fuller shots that you typically hit with that sort of 50 degree, that 48, 50 degree, 52 degree area. Then as you move into more loft, obviously these are shots you're going to be in and around the green, and we're trying to maximise spin on those little short shots, aren't we? What you'll notice here now is the centre of gravity progressively moves up the club face. So how they do that is making that back, or putting more weight up in the top of the golf club. Obviously, put more weight there, it pulls the centre of gravity higher up the club face. If you strike that groove number 2, 3, 4, which is below the centre of gravity, then what that tends to promote is a slightly lower launch and higher spin. Okay, so lower launch, higher in that spin is ultimately more control that golf ball for those shorter shots. Now, as they move more weight up here, and when you look at it from a side-on version, sometimes it looks a bit chunky and a bit like a thick top edge there, and it doesn't look sort of pleasant. But obviously with such a lot of loft there, when you put it in that playing position, you don't see any of that at all. It just looks superb. So this is a 58 degree I've got here. So I'm just going to hit a couple of shots with this. Oh, that feels absolutely amazing off the club face. I just need to sort my alignment out here. I'm just aiming too far left at the moment. But that's, yeah, really good sort of feel off the club. You know, obviously I'm hitting off them out, appreciate that. You know, off turf, it's going to be different. That's where you want to be sort of trying to maybe test a few wedges as off turf, as well as just hitting, you know, obviously a gap in session like that. So ultimately here, each loft is designed in its own way to get the best performance from those different types of shots that we're sort of going to be faced with out on that golf course. And obviously we're going to talk about spin. Spin's obviously a big word when it comes to wedges, and there's a lot of work again done to try and maximise that sort of spin of the golf ball, and that ultimately that sort of control. So Titleist have the patented spin mill groove. So they have a new cutting process now, which basically creates a sort of a higher tolerance in terms of that depth of the groove, the width of the groove, and obviously getting that ultimate spin and the sharpness of the groove as much as they possibly can to get that maximum control. And again, the grooves are all different depending on the loft of the wedge. So from the 46 to 54 options, the grooves are a little bit narrower and a little bit deeper, and then as you move into the higher lofted wedges, they tend to get a little bit wider and a little bit shallower on the grooves. Again, it's all trying to fine tune it for all those different speeds and sort of lofts and areas of the game where we're trying to maximise the spin as much as we possibly can. So one of the biggest issues we have with wedges is the wear of the grooves. You know, over time, and you know, wedges we use a lot on the golf course. Most holes we tend to sort of get that wedge out, don't we? You know, in sand, the sand is always buffering these edges of the grooves and blunting them off, basically rounding them off and losing that ultimately that sharpness. So what Titleist introduced into the process now is a heat treatment, which basically they're saying is doubles the durability of these grooves, so they're going to stay sharper for longer, keeping that spin up over time. Okay, so off camera I've hit a load of shots here with the 50 degree, the 54, the 58 with my gaming ball, TaylorMade TP5X. And I've shown you these are the averages that I'm showing you now of those shots I've hit. So start with the 50 degree. These are like, they're not flat out for me. It's like a 3/4, 105, 106 yard area. Is quite a sort of smooth 50 degree for me. So not tons of speed, but really nice sort of spin number. You see just short that 9,500 mark RPMs on that backspin. So loads of control there, and I've got that bit of stopping power with the descent angle and everything like that. Then moving into the 54, again, these are sort of like smooth 54s, 3/4 sort of feel. 86 yards I've averaged on the carry of those, and you can see the spin just drop a little bit. Obviously as you drop a bit of speed, you are going to reduce a little bit of spin naturally, even though you're playing more loft. So more loft is more spin, but speed is also a big part of creating spin on the golf ball. But obviously I'm dropping the speed off to hit that different sort of yardage, but still a good sort of maintenance of spin there, 8.795. I'm really pleased with that. I'm not a huge spinner of the golf ball. I've never struggled to stop the ball, but at the same time, I've never ripped them back, you know, huge sort of spinning golf shots. Not that I want to be honest. See the height there just drops in that little bit low, a little bit more loft, just controlling the sort of speed. And maybe as that centre of gravity of the club face, as we talked about, goes more up the club face in the higher lofts, you tend to see that slightly lower launch. And just getting a little bit of control at peak height. Then moving into the 58 on those really awkward distances, and this is where I would want as much spin as I possibly can. Tons of scenarios on the golf course where spin's taken away from you, you know, dampness, debris between club face and ball, sometimes how the ball lies, you know, the green firmness, the wind direction, everything like that can also affect that spin of the golf ball. So 52 yards I've averaged on those batch I've hit there, and a spin of 7,151. Again, really pleased with that. So spin's definitely there. You know, we've got some good control of that golf ball, as you would expect. Tite's done a lot of work on that. I'm seeing the results there, really pleased with it. Okay, so there we go. The big thumbs up from me to Titleist there, SM9s. They look sensational, they feel really good, and the numbers are there backing it up as well. As always, I think we've seen a few tour players just whiz these straight in the bag early days, which is always quite impressive really, because those guys tend not to be changing the sort of shape of the wedges too frequently in a way. So yeah, big thumbs up from me. They're probably going to go straight into the bag and replace my SM8s. Beautiful. Post your comments down below, let me know your thoughts, and hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.